Guys, how we doing today? I'm your Emperor, Crown Fiend, and today we will be doing What If Shigiraki Killed Midorya? Now, I hinted at this a couple days ago, and, I told you guys it was going to be bloody, or rather that dusty. So I hope you guys are ready, because, I didn't hold nothing back in this one. Like we said, Deku, he gonna get killed. So you already know that plot point's coming. So let's jump into this right off the bat. So where we're gonna pick our story up is right then when they're in the shopping mall, right? So Shigiraki has his fingers on Deku's throat. And he says to Deku, don't make any moves or anything like that, because when all 5 of his fingers touch something, it starts to decay. Now, they have their conversation the same way as in canon. However, in this one, Deku makes a move and tries to call for help. With that, Shigiraki decays Deku's throat and then leaves. Meaning Deku's head just starts rolling around on the fucking floor, blood splurting out his torso, his head's just draining out blood, and Shigiraki escapes through the crowd. Later on, during the League of Villains hideout, it's all over the front page news. Local UA student Izuku Midorya killed in shopping mall. And that's going to cause All For One to be very angry with Shigiraki. Because the whole reason why they were hunting down All Might and trying to figure out who he passed along his quirk to is so that way they could steal the quirk one for all. Which, that's manga spoilers if you don't know. This is going to be nothing but manga spoilers. So, leave now. Otherwise, I don't care. Anyway, if you're sticking around, you want to know more. So let's keep going into this. Now, this would cause a ripple effect. All Might would be devastated that he let his guard down like this, and his protege has been killed. They'll be out looking for the League of Villains like nothing else you've ever seen. Because now it seems like villains are hunting down heroes' students. The government has to take more safety precautions. UA Sports Festival is cancelled. Their students are immediately moved to their dorm system, which is implemented a lot earlier. They can't take the risk of another student being killed. And while they're at UA, there's a plethora of heroes to protect them. However, the psychological damage it does on Class 1A is even more tremendous now. They lost one of their strongest in the class to a villain at a mall. It's like they can't even go out and enjoy their own lives anymore. Is being a hero really the best thing to do? Meanwhile, All Might is frantically searching. He brings in Gran Torino a lot earlier to help him hunt down the League of Villains. He has to find All For One, and he has to make sure he pays. So with that, it leads to some difficulties. Now that Shigaraki's made his move, All For One is desperately wanting to rush things along now. He knows that the heroes will find this place eventually. So he contacts Dr. Ujiko and tells him that it's time to move ahead of schedule. He wants Shigiraki to be prepped and enhanced to hold the power of All For One and all the quirks that come with it. So Shigiraki is moved to Dr. Ujiko's facility, and his enhancements begin way earlier. We're talking about season 1 type of early. And it's just moving forward at a rapid rate. Now, All For One wants them to think that they're still going to be targeting Hiro's students. So, while Shigiraki's getting the procedure done, All for One is making the moves in the shadow. He watches every student and gets a full-on list of every single one of the students there. And he starts looking over their personalities, what they like, they dislike. Now, a few of Class 1A and Class 1B students have left UA because news about them being hunted down by villains, it's more than most of their parents signed up for. So a lot of the students withdraw. The General Studies Division is canceled. It's cut off. UA is on its last legs. Because back when it was just an abduction, back then, it nearly killed UA. A student death? Yeah, that's killed it. Basically. And attacks from different factions of heroes being contacted by All Might on villain facilities increased drastically. However, All Might's power is fading away, and he can't give the quirk to anyone else. The quirk's gone. One for all, it's gone. There's nowhere for it to go. Which means All Might's the last person, and he's running on the fumes of One for All. He doesn't have the strength, the time. He can't combat what the League of Villains is doing to the world. And he actually goes public with this. He goes public saying that he will do all that he can. However, his quirk was given to him, and the person he passed it on to can no longer pass it on to anyone else since they were killed. And that would come as a shock to all the pro heroes there, that All Might's quirk was given to him. He was given a quirk. And All Might tells them all about All for One, his ability to steal quirks. And that causes a lot of pro heroes to realize what they're up against, and they resign. The hero numbers start dropping. However, heroes like Endeavor stand tall. Best Genus, Night Eye comes to All Might's aid, and he's forgive and forget, right? Gran Torino's there. Hawks is being sent in by the Hero Agency to assist. All the big players are in place a lot earlier now, and they're scavenging. And since Night Eye has been brought into the story a lot earlier, he's trying to hunt them down and try to see what's going on. However, with a big majority of the heroes all in one place, that leaves one place heavily unprotected. And with one big group of villains that All for One was managing to hire, break out of prison and all that shit, yeah, he sends them on a full frontal assault to UA, and along with an army of Nomu. But that's not the only place he sends them. No, he sends multiple other Nomus out into the cities, causing so much destruction. He's wanting mass pandemonia. What will the heroes decide to do? Go rushing back to UA, or protect the innocents? With that, a choice is made. And with Night Eye not being able to see anyone's future, and he sees his as going out there and protecting people, he can't see anybody else's because he looked at his own future. Because Night Eye still has that mental block of not wanting to check anyone else's future. So he doesn't know what's going to happen at UA. Now, at UA, it's a tough fight, but Mirio, Tamaki, Nejire, they're as tough as pro heroes, but there's only 3 of them against an army, and Mirio's doing everything that he can, but all he's able to do is take out these Nomus here, Nomus there, he can't really compete with someone like Muscular, who's going in there wreaking havoc. Muscular at this point had killed everyone in class 1B except Monoma, who's copied Muscular's quirk. So Monoma is doing his best. Shinzo's trying to brainwash people, but the Nomus get to Shinzo, ripping him apart, tearing his legs off, his arms, crushing his skull. Bakugo and Todoroki are fighting for their lives, their classmates, but it's just not enough. There's too many villains. All the pro heroes in there are being swarmed by Nomus as well. Nezu's requesting assistance, but there's not enough heroes anymore. A lot of them have resigned. However, Mount Lady and Kamui Wood, who've been in the area, who are heading to a date, rush over to UA to assist. And they are able to help a bit, but it's still too much. Like, several Nomus were able to severely hurt and injure a lot of heroes out there. And with Muscular there, Moonfish, a lot of those other guys, like, it's a lot of work. I mean, people that were just hired on twice, making clones of people, like, it's all out hell. And they capture Bakugo, Tokiyami, they kill Todoroki, because Todoroki gets shot in the head by Mustard. So ultimately it's a lot of work. And the reason why Mustard was able to come is because he had his mind manipulated by All For One, telling him that, you know, all of this stuff, and kind of referring to him as being a better Stain, since the hero killer was popular news at this point in time. It would be all over the place. And a lot of the students would die there, and a lot of the villains would be captured, but the Nomus would free them. So ultimately, the villains that escaped would be Muscular and Moonfish, Twice, Magne. Like, they all would escape, along with several Nomu, with the abductions of Tokiyami. They would also escape with Bakugo and Monoma, since Monoma would have been defeated after he'd been knocked out by the gas, so he would have been brought along, as they would have seen that Monoma had a useful quirk of being able to copy things. All For One would want it, and that would lead him to being captured. All the other students would be killed, and the ones that Mirio, Tamaki, and Nedre would fighting, well, the villains, they'd be beaten, but Tamaki would be severely injured. Nedre would be terrified after seeing all of those students die. Midnight, she was protecting the second years. President Mike would have been killed, and a lot of the other, you know, teachers there, like Snipe would have been killed easily. So overall, a lot of UA's staff is killed, which causes mass pandemonia throughout the nation. UA, the most prestigious and well-protected hero school, was broken into, and the students were slaughtered. The parents would be mortified, instantly regretting letting their students go there. Their children, they're dead. The parents are heartbroken. Hero Society is breaking down. Stain is loving this. He goes to the League of Villains and openly accepts their invite. All For One would welcome Stain, knowing that he's charismatic. He would take him and let Stain spread his message all throughout the internet, causing more recruits to come, like Dabi, Toga, Spinner. A lot other ones would start slowly coming and rallying behind them. And with these forces, All For One has a plan on giving Shigiraki an army. He would contact Overhaul and would pledge a alliance between the two organizations, between the Preceptors of Death and the League of Villains. Overhaul would jump at this chance, knowing how influential All For One is, and All For One would aid in the research of Eri, giving Overhaul access to more labs that would go throughout and further his research more quickly, allowing them to get prototype quirk-destroying bullets earlier. This being very helpful to the League of Villains, and seeing how Overhaul is proving himself to be a valued asset, it would be enough. He would contact Dr. Ujiko and say that they're almost ready for Shigiraki. How's the process going? Dr. Ujiko at this time would say he's about 50% done. It'll take a few more months. Just keep causing mass riots all throughout there, and you'll have your successor ready to go. With that, it would cause so much more to happen, because now you have these whole groups coming together, and they would raid the Meta Liberation Army. All For One would know about Redestro, and he would want him on his side, his forces. However, Redestro doesn't want to submit to anyone, so All For One steals his quirk and kills Redestro. There, he would give his quirk to Muscular, buying into Muscular's more loyalty side. And with that, Muscular would become the new Redestro. He would be a powerhouse like no one has ever seen before, and he would send Muscular out there to wreak havoc, keeping the heroes off them, which would mean Muscular would be going crazy and would just be wrecking shit. Whole cities in an instantly wiped out. Shiketsu High destroyed. Students there killed. Miss Joke's school wiped out in a day. The military would start moving in. However, even the villains would overwhelm the military. The government would have no choice but to ask for help to foreign nations. However, most of the foreign nations would decline. American heroes would be on their way, knowing what they're about to walk into. They're walking into hell, and they know it. However, this was an official response from the United States government. So, they have little choice but to walk into hell or submit their resignation. A few more months would pass, and Shigiraki would be ready to go. He would be fully intact, upgrades, all of it. So, Shigiraki would wake up at 100%, and in an instant, he would decay an entire half of Japan. Whole cities decayed away, turned to dust. Shigiraki would be laughing, wanting to know, where are the heroes at now? Show him the heroes and let him slaughter them. As All For One would greet Shigiraki with open arms, saying, "My vessel." As Shigiraki, not having that time to really fully develop his ideals, his own hatred, have his own trials, to build up his own willpower, would easily be overtaken by All For One's consciousness. Meaning, All For One is now in Shigaraki's body. Jigato Makia would march through, coming to his master, as he would wipe out every hero across the nation. All Might would try. His arms would be decayed one at a time. He would be impaled. He would be just tortured by All For One in Shigiraki's body. He would have his face ripped, but before he would die, All For One would tell him, "How does it feel, All Might? How does it feel to know that you failed so badly? How does it feel to know that you're gonna die from the mentor that you've had's own grandchild?" As All Might's eyes would widen, he'd say, "What?" All For One would say that Tomura Shigiraki was the grandson of Nana Shimura. All For One's eyes would light up with this gleeful look as All Might would have utter despair as he would start to decay All Might. As All Might would die, the blood pouring out of his face would satisfy All For One gladly. And then he would crush All Might's head into just the dust that remained and scatter it across the battlefield. Endeavor would fight Dabi as Toya Todoroki. His true name would be revealed as Endeavor would be heartbroken. He couldn't fight against his own child, and Dabi would kill him. The rest of the pro heroes would be slaughtered. The American ones that have arrived would be slaughtered even quicker. All the other nations would rule Japan as a unruly area and would seal it off, having warships all around Japan, where All For One would see this. However, he would have recruited somebody else, a man called Nine. And Nine, with his quirk, would rain down lightning upon every vessel, destroying it in the ocean. They would begin their ascent throughout the rest of the world. However, they would be met with missiles, nuclear responses. The country of Japan would be wiped off the face of the earth. And with that, the villain threat would be wiped out. However, seeing this, the villains of Japan gained this much momentum, several American heroes slaughtered, a lot more stricter and ruthless orders around the world for all other country hero agencies would be given. They would say that villains are to be killed on sight. We cannot allow what happened to Japan to happen throughout the rest of the world. So with that, villains would be hunted down to extinction. Anyone who broke the law and called themselves a villain would be executed. No mercy, no exceptions. And that is what I would honestly believe would happen if Shigiraki had killed Midorya. And if things went in a more actual realistic approach. So, with that, I hope you guys have enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.